Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia, they really want you to believe that they are starting to take human rights seriously at long last. And they did a big symbolic thing, which is important in its own right to show that. They've released Loujain al-Hathloul, one of the country's most prominent women's rights activists, from prison earlier this week, in the clearest sign yet that the kingdom's leaders were taking steps to assuage President Biden's complaints about human rights violations. Now, we're gonna give commentary on that plot, but first I wanna focus on the activist that was actually released. Hathloul has been among the most visible faces of an unrelenting Saudi crackdown on human rights advocates, dissidents, and civil society activists. Her imprisonment, which lasted 1,001 days, and allegations that she'd been tortured, sparked an international outcry. Now, in recent weeks, they've tried to enhance their brand, including with reconciliation with its neighbor Qatar, and then the release of activists jailed in what human rights groups say were bogus terrorism-related charges. The most prominent of these is Hathloul, who is well known for campaigning for women's right to drive and for the abolition of Saudi guardianship laws, which require women to obtain a male relative's consent for major decisions, including education and travel. But despite this, Hathloul and others have not been acquitted by Saudi courts and remain under tight restrictions that prevent them from leaving the kingdom. Human rights activists are pressing for these constraints to be lifted entirely. But that would require an actual commitment to human rights, civil rights, women's rights, and all of that, which is a little bit more significant and harder to get to than just sort of releasing her kind of for now to get a little bit of good press and maybe convince Biden to go easy on them. What do you think?
Well, I think that this is an archaic form of life that they have going on there. And they're trying to, the article said they're rebranding, which was like rebranding, what are they, Chrysler? But it's because I felt like, okay, fine. Trump was in office, they had a great relationship with Trump. Their kingpin has left, so now they're thinking like, okay, well, we don't have anyone that's gonna back us, so let's try to rebrand and be better. I think that it comes down to, as you said, really wanting to change and value human rights in a place that has a death penalty that executes people for like non-violent offenses, that executes people for drug offenses, for having marijuana. They will execute, you will be given the death penalty for having a hallucinogenic substance there, So it's not. I'm not surprised that this is how this is going, but I am happy that this woman's on the way to having a better life after serving time. And her family has said that she's changed. I mean, this is someone who was sentenced to 5 years in prison and apparently was able to get out because of good behavior or because of time served, right? But it's beyond that. So much needs to change there, and I understand that religion and how things have been, what's the word, historically valued there are a big reason why it hasn't. But with Biden now in office, at least they're trying to turn the tide, even though it's taking longer than we would like. However, that's still not enough, right? There's so much work that needs to be done in that region because they have such extreme ways of dealing with things, John. It's like, where does this come from? Why would I need to be sentenced chapstick, right?
I agree. And I really do wish that I thought that this sort of change was an actual serious sign of progress rather than, oh my God, Biden is going to cut off US support for the war in Yemen and he's not gonna be selling Saudi Arabia weapons and they're gonna be doing a little bit more investigation of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Like it really does seem to me to be sort of trying to regain access to those military and economic resources. We'll see. And in the past, like Trump obviously was massively supportive of Saudi Arabia, but he's hardly the first US president to do that. And we don't know for sure what long-term Biden's relationship with Saudi Arabia will be. So we're gonna have to be keeping an eye on that. For Loujain Hathloul, that it's good news. Glad to see it. Hopefully the first of many signs, but we'll be watching and we'll find out.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.